Hey there, Emily. So let's take a look at your newest set of essays about fast food replacing traditional food. Let's see what you had to say about this. Experts throughout both developed and developing countries have debated on whether the fast food trend is beneficial or detrimental to people's life. From my perspective, hold on a second. There's this thing here. It is largely true that fast food can indeed cause damage to families, individuals, and even the society. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at what you said after that. First, the trend that people tend to consume fast food rather than enjoy homemade food may weaken family bonds. Okay, I don't think it should be the trend but most likely should be the trend where people tend to consume fast foods. I know it sounds strange to say where with a trend, but the trend that just sounds even more awkward. So, believe it or not, where would have been more appropriate here. Uh, this is largely because family mealtime is regarded as a valuable moment to strengthen their family bonds. When people can build a connection, share their life, and discuss things with their family members. If people chose to eat junk food instead of enjoying mealtime, their family relationships would be weakened significantly. Okay. Um, this is okay, but it's a little it needed a little more development. I know that might sound strange to you, but let me tell you why. So, um, they tend to consume fast food instead of homemade foods, and this weakens bonds. Okay, that's because mealtime helps us strengthen our relationships. If they choose to eat junk food instead, their relationships would be weakened. But I still don't understand why. So you need to go into a little detail about this. That with fast food, there is no meal prep. Everyone can eat their dinner rather quickly. um it's prepared really quickly. You get it from the corner burger shop or whatever, and so there's not this whole ritual of preparing the meal, setting the table, eating a traditional meal all together, and so forth. So essentially each family member can eat on his or her own if she really wants. And so this is what in fact weakens the ties. So there was a little bit of this element that was missing for me in this paragraph, okay? Other than that, it was pretty good. Okay, second, fast food culture is also extremely detrimental to individuals' health because it would make people you don't develop an unbalanced diet, you adopt an unbalanced diet. The central reason is that they are inclined to neglect the importance of intaking sufficient nutrition, which is necessary for their brains and bodies. They are also more likely to consume excessive amounts, with an S, of fat, sugar, and salt, which would cause health issues such as diabetes and obesity. For instance, recent empirical research by the UK government demonstrated that people who eat fast food frequently are 30% more likely to suffer from high blood sugar and diabetes than people who do not. All right, that's lovely. I don't have any comments about that. I thought that was a good paragraph. Third, the trend of eating fast food can also be injurious to the environment. This is mainly because giant fast food corporations use undegradable, non-biodegradable, we usually say, non-biodegradable materials and even overpack their products. For example, McDonald's and KFC use plastic bags, containers, and utensils to pack their food. This disposable garbage would increase the burden on garbage and waste processing. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that fast food indeed has several drawbacks to our lives. Okay, fine. Let's read the conclusion. In conclusion, I firmly agree that fast food has, singular food has, negative impacts on family relationships, individuals' health condition, and the environment based on the arguments and examples mentioned above. Okay, so I thought this was really good in a lot of ways. I was a little concerned when I saw that you decided to have 3 body paragraphs. We usually recommend a 4-paragraph structure with 2 body paragraphs. Here, I was like, okay, it's fine. You had a paragraph for individuals, a paragraph for families, and then you had a paragraph for society. My problem is with that last paragraph. It was supposed to be about society. How does this affect society as a whole? You instead didn't really talk about that. You talked about the environment. Okay. the environment and society are not precisely the same thing. So you should have talked about how it affected people as a whole. That's what we really mean here when we talk about society. And you didn't do that, and so I wanted you to. So this, for me, this whole paragraph felt a little off topic. You were talking about plastic bags. You were talking about the environment. You were talking about waste processing. If you had come back to the idea of people and society and our culture as a whole, then I would have been okay with it. But you didn't really do that, and so it felt rather off topic. Okay? And that's a shame because the rest of it was really good. So if you had said that these plastic bags and all of this plastic wrapping seeps into our rainwater, it seeps into our soil, and this affects all of us, the whole world, the whole community as a whole, then I would have accepted it. But the way you wrote it here, it was not clear how all this relates to society. Okay? So again, Emily, I thought you wrote a nice essay overall. I thought it was positive. I thought it was good in a lot of different ways, but there are still some ways that I think it could be further improved. Okay, so let's take a look at your bar chart about the shoe sales. Let's see what you said here. The bar chart gives information about the number of brown and black leather shoes. Hold on. Grammar. The bar chart gives information about the number of brown and black leather shoes sold in 9 European countries, or that were sold. But without the that, you can't do it. So it's either that were sold or just plain old sold. Overall, we can see from the graph that the gap between the figure for two types of shoe sales was largest in Belgium. In contrast, the gap between Hungary was the least, with both types of shoes being well sold during this period. All right, that's interesting. That's not what most people choose to talk about. Most people choose to talk about the highest number and the lowest number without specifics. So usually what I see is overall we can see from the graph that the greatest number of shoe soles were of black leather in Hungary, and the lowest number of shoes was in Belgium of the brown leather color. So that's typically what we see here. That for me is actually rather appropriate to write as an overview. I'm okay with that when I see it. You decided instead to talk about the gaps, the differences, which is okay, but it's not really the thing to me that stands out as the biggest, most obvious thing. That's what your overview is supposed to talk about. So it's like, this isn't the most obvious thing. The fact that this difference is so little is not the thing that sticks out. To me, the thing that sticks out is the highest figure. And then the other thing that sticks out is the lowest figure. So those were the things I would have selected for my overview. In any case, let's see how you developed it. You might have, made it make sense in that way. So let's see what you did. Starting from the countries where the sales of brown leather shoes were more than those of black leather. Brown leather shoes were the most popular in Poland, with about 130,000 shoes sold. The figure was followed, ED, by Germany, Ireland, and Holland, with the sales of approximately 125, 100,000, 80,000 respectively. Also, it is worth mentioning that France sold about half of the figure of brown shoes sold in Poland. All right, why did you decide to talk about France? Let's see. France, brown leather shoes. Okay, I don't know why you decided to talk about brown leather shoes here. In France, to me, I would have talked about Belgium because it had the lowest figure. But okay. As regards to countries where, definitely where, black leather shoes were more popular than brown leather shoes. They were most popular in Hungary with just under 140,000. Italy was the second most popular country for black leather shoes with about 125,000 sales. Finally, the number of black leather shoes sold in Belgium and the UK was similar with just over 100,000. Okay. So I like a lot of this. I thought you did a nice job in general, but I also think that you were missing some really key information here. First of all, how many countries do you have? You have 9 countries. Did you actually mention them all by name? As far as I could tell, no, you did not. So we've got, let's see, Belgium, Hungary, Poland, Germany, Ireland, Holland, and then France, and then UK, Italy. Oh, maybe you did mention them. If you mention them, then you're fine, and that's very good. You absolutely have to mention all the countries by name in order to get anything anything over a 4 for task achievement. If you skip any of these categories, you're looking at a band 4. So I know it's pretty rough, but that's in fact the case. What I wanted was maybe a little more information, maybe a little more data. So talking about brown leather shoes, you decided to talk about the highest number, and then you talked about 4 other numbers, okay? And then you talked about France. I didn't really think that was particularly relevant. I didn't think it was important. I didn't think it was relevant. I thought it was far more interesting to talk about this low number here that's happening in Belgium. You hinted at it here, but just because you hinted at it in your overview, it doesn't mean you're done with it. When you talk about something in your overview, that means it's important enough to give some data about in your detailed paragraphs. So that's what I would have focused on here rather than talking about France. I would have said it is worth mentioning that the lowest number of brown leather shoes were found in Belgium at just over 0. That for me would have been important. And then that would have also told me all the other shoe sales were between this number and whatever the previous number you talked about was, 80,000. So I would know that the remaining countries were between 0 and 80,000. Okay. And then here you decide to talk about Hungary, and then the second most popular, and then the third and fourth most popular. I thought that was a little weak. I thought again that you should have talked about more. Yes, I would agree you should talk about these 3, but I also think you should talk about the lowest number. This way, again, by process of elimination, we know that the remaining countries were between those figures. So this is what I call talking about the outliers. This particular graph is really, really well suited to that. Talking about the outliers means you look at these side numbers and you say, all right, what really sticks out? Anything above this 100, these are the numbers that really stick out. Anything below this 50, these are the numbers that really stick out. So those are the ones you want to focus on, okay? And then the rest of them, the ones that are in the middle, you can just kind of smush together using a range or just some sort of a blanket statement covering all of them. So that's something you can do. And I think that makes it a really efficient way to cover a lot of information in a short amount of time without like really going into a lot of monotonous details. So that's something I would like to see you do. So as far as black leather shoes are concerned, you basically talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was it. So I think you were really missing a big part of the puzzle here by not talking about either France or anything in between. Okay, so I want you to do that. Overall, it was a good set, though, especially for your first task 1. I thought you did a nice job. So keep at it. Keep going at it. Apply the suggestions you hear today. Apply the suggestions from the course, and I'll wait to see more essays from you. So good luck.